Welcome back to the Midnight Gospel, where we fall asleep into dreaming of being there in our favorite Bible stories. Tonight, we begin with the story of the Good Samaritan from Luke chapter 10. These aren't sermons. They're stories retold slowly to help your body rest and your soul come home back to God. This video was made to help you drift to sleep while drawing near to something holy. There's nothing urgent here, no lesson to catch, just the gentle retelling of a simple act of kindness. Beneath the hush of an evening sky, you can let your breath slow down. Maybe your day was full or lonely, heavy or bright, it doesn't matter now. Tonight, the story is here to keep you company, like a quiet friend who sits close after you've stopped talking. Every detail moves slow, the earth cooling in the dusk. The quiet thump of footsteps on the road, the careful work of hands at rest. Let this moment stretch, let your shoulders drop. Even if you fall asleep before the end, the story will keep walking with you. You don't have to listen closely. Just let it settle into your breath and rest. The story is already unfolding, one slow step at a time. There was no curtain, just the soft linen laid over my arms, quiet, weightless, almost cold where the edge trailed from my shoulder. The first light came through the clay gap in the wall, neither bright nor dim, only the color of warm bread, slow and shy in its arrival. For a while I let my eyes settle on the empty ceiling, the little cracks, the pale flicker of dust caught in a stray sunbeam. There were no footsteps in the hallway, just the hush of a house before its chores begin. A bird made a sound on the far eave. I heard him before I remembered to move. The blanket clung to me, rough but clean. There was comfort in the way the fabric folded into itself, wrinkled lines shaped from sleep, weaving patterns that held the night's leftover warmth. I tucked my fingers beneath the edge, feeling the cool smoothness of stone underneath. My body knew not to rush, each muscle waking, but only when it wished. Even the breath seemed to wait between leaving and returning, as if God's own hands pressed gently at the crown of my head, asking nothing of me yet. Quiet lentil scent drifted from a pot in another room. I listened to the air. In these walls, the silence is a friend. The world spins softly on the other side. My sandals, set neatly by the door, waited as if they remembered every road before this. The wooden bowl on the ledge caught the morning dew, glazed with yesterday's water, a faint ring left behind. I noticed the way light climbed up it, gentle and slow. When I finally sat upright, the linen beside me fell with a thick, comforting sigh. My feet pressed against the worn floor. Cool grains of dust clung to my toes, familiar, harmless. Someone's voice murmured from the yard far away. Their words never reached this room. The morning belonged to itself. Nothing was asked of me yet. I folded the cloth the way I always did, once lengthwise, twice again. The sound was soft, almost a whisper. My thumb followed the old seams. Each stitch held a memory, but nothing urgent. The quiet carried the smallest sounds. The brush of my sleeve, the shush of skin against stone, the way the wind sighed under the threshold. For a moment I watched the dust moving in the beam, a slow, drifting dance. Sometimes it is enough just to see things as they are. I let each dull minute pass. The world outside might wait for miracles or troubles. In here, even stillness is work. Even the air has a gentle weight this early. Let this moment stretch. As the morning finds its way in, I find mine. The room is simple, square, honest. No one is waiting just yet. I breathe in, and even this silence is holy. The day has not begun, not fully. This is the hour before asking, before giving, before anyone needs to be strong. I move slow, letting the calm unspool inside my ribs. No one calls my name. The only duty is to fold the linen and to let my soul wake up as quietly as my body does. I press my palm to the cool clay wall and feel its firmness, real and old. Outside, the sky is patient, not yet blue. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. The night listens with you, the morning is gentle, and you are not alone. Even nothing here is enough. The sun isn't much yet, just a pale brightness over stone. I sit behind the inn, quiet as the road starting to wake. You can hear the world stretch, slow and gentle. Someone sweeping. A dog turns in the dust. I reach for flatbread. A rough circle, baked yesterday, edges dry but the middle soft. I place it on the flat rock near the embers. The warmth moves slow like the air before a word. I wait, watching a line of ants skirt the stone. There's nothing urgent, just hunger, slow as sunrise. Let the stillness in, it's all right to just breathe here. I turn the bread by its corner, careful not to burn myself. The smell is simple, wheat, ash, sleep still heavy. I tear a piece off, hold it in my palm. Oil waits in a small cup, green and golden, poured not quickly, not too much. It rests there too, a deep breath in, long and soft, as if you're chewing before the bite. I dip the bread, feeling the weight and smoothness, the oil soaking underneath. It's cool at first. When I chew, the sound is quiet, a kind of hush like distant water. No one is watching, but it feels like a story anyway. Chewing takes as long as it takes. There's time. Let each bite linger. Match your breath to the slow work of your jaw. The cup is made of clay. When I set it down, there's a tap against stone. I notice how solid it feels, nothing fancy but enough. A jug of water stands by the door. I carry it with two hands and pour, slow and careful so nothing spills. The surface ripples, the morning light finds it and it calms itself again. You can let yourself settle, to just listen to the quiet inside your chest. Sometimes I think of those who pass this way. Maybe they come in hungry or tired or with dust on their faces. I place another flatbread on the stone just in case. The heat moves underneath it. It softens. I set out more oil. The bread cools slowly. Nothing is wasted. My hands move, folding the cloth, picking up crumbs. No one hurries here. Take another gentle breath. Feel the air go in, then out, as slow as the crust grows soft. He asked for nothing and still felt full. That's how it is some mornings. You chew and swallow and the ache is gone, and you never quite know when you crossed over from empty to enough. I look out at the road, silent now. The cup is still. The bread is broken. The day waits for me. I let my shoulders fall. I finish what's in my hand. I give thanks quiet in a way no one hears, but it's heard. Even this silence is holy. He woke before the sun had done more than color the edge of the sky. The house was still, cool air moving across the flat stones. He tied his sandals, not too tight, just enough to keep stones out. No one else spoke, so even the buckles seemed to settle into the silence. Step after step, he began down the road. Dirt, pebbles, a little dust in the air each time the soul hit the path. The world was quiet here. Just him and the long stretch of earth, flat and open, with a dry smell rising up. The sun didn't hurry either. It only warmed the tips of the low shrubs at first. That was fine. There was no rush. Not today. Step after step after step, the cloak on his back was a steady weight. The sun warmed one shoulder, but the ground kept cool under his feet. Sometimes he saw the same stone twice, turning it over with his shoe to see if it wobbled or just stayed put. Nothing to prove, nothing urgent, only a road that needed walking. His hands hung by his sides for a while, then found their way to the edge of his sleeve, tracing the stitches made last winter. One was a little frayed. He picked at it, then let it be. There would be time to fix it. Time stretched out for the walking. The shrubs on the side of the road, they barely moved in the still air. Some looked silver in the light, others like small shadows. Sometimes a bird darted between them. Sometimes it was only the wind, small and slow, stirring up the tiniest sounds, the sort you don't hear unless you're looking for quiet. There was no one hurrying. He didn't think about yesterday. He didn't think about all the days ahead. Just step after step after step, letting the rhythm settle into his bones, like a song he'd always known but rarely sang out loud. Let this moment stretch. On the road he found shapes in the clouds. He wasn't a man of many words, but sometimes he whispered the shape aloud: sheep, fig tree, mountain. There was no one but the birds to hear. That was its own kind of prayer, not asking, not wishing, just being. His eyes traveled over the worn path, tracing the dips where other travelers had gone before. Feet made grooves in the earth, and he fit his own into the same lines, feeling how the earth accepted the weight. Each step a little surrender. Nothing about the day pressed him forward. The air was warm, but only in patches. The rest of it lingered cool, from the night still hiding in the shadows of small stones. There was enough water in his skin to keep going. There was enough quiet to fill up with. The world, for a moment, wanted nothing from him but his steps. The hush of the road made room for soft thoughts, half finished. He thought about the bread packed away in his bag, about the color of his mother's hair in sunlight, about a story he'd only heard once, how rain could sometimes wash away even the deepest grooves if you gave it time. And step after step after step, he just kept walking. He paused once, squinting up at a bird just overhead. It moved so easily, hardly flapping, letting the wind do most of the work. He wished for that kind of ease. But here his feet kept to the dust. There was a kind of peace in the slow work of walking. The bird went on its way and he went on his. Even this silence is holy. He glanced behind just once to see how far he'd walked. The road behind looked no different than the road ahead. It didn't matter. He still felt the comfort of going somewhere, the quiet surety of movement, slow, simple, unremarkable. A faded piece of cloth caught on a bush. He stooped, pulled it free, folded it small, and tucked it away. Someone else would miss it, maybe, or maybe not. Either way, nothing needed to be wasted. The little things, he tried to notice them, like pausing to wipe his hands on his cloak, brushing away bits of travel that clung to him. Step after step after step after step. Just a body moving along a quiet stretch, every thought softened by dust and sunlight. The bushes grew thicker in some places, then spread thin again. There was a peace in how they stayed rooted, season after season, holding the road like quiet guardians. He nodded once at a rock, no reason why, except that it had been there longer than he had. Sometimes every living thing needed a bit of acknowledgement. He hummed, a sound so small it might only have been air passing his lips, but he heard it. The earth heard it. That was enough. Small stones found their way into his sandals. He stopped to shake them out, patient fingers loosening the leather straps. Dust on his toes, sun on his brow. The world didn't ask for more than this. He started again, feet brushing against the dry path, step after step after step. The inn was still a far way off, he knew that. But there was a comfort in having somewhere to walk to, even if it was just the next bend or the next bit of shade. He wasn't in a hurry, not with the day stretching long and the road quiet beneath him. Let this moment hold you. He reached into his bag once, making sure a small jar sat safe against his bread. The glass felt cool and smooth. He didn't open it. Just knowing it was there steadied him in a way. Some things are like that. You don't have to hold them tight. You just need to know they are close. In the distance, a few more steps ahead, the heat made the road shimmer. It looked almost like water, but he knew better. Step by step by step, he walked more slowly, letting his shadow stretch beside him. The sun climbed higher, but the quiet never left. He breathed slow and deep. The road, the dust, the steady rhythm of sandals, this too was a prayer. Not words, just living, just walking. He asked for nothing and still felt full. Step after step after step, the day carried him forward. No one saw, but the silence noticed, and the earth remembered. Let the hush be enough. Sleep comes like this too, slow, uneventful, and good. Quiet as sand on the road, soft as dusk at the end of a long walk. The world goes on, step after step after step, carried by gentle hands, safe, never hurried. Even now, rest draws near. It was past midday when the path grew quiet again. Nothing but the dust turning gold, slow as honey, across the stones. I felt my steps lighten. Sometimes the road narrows, not with danger but with hush, like someone letting out a long breath all at once. Birds had tucked themselves beneath olive leaves. Even the breeze had stopped asking questions. I paused. In the pause, everything felt held together by silence. You could hear small things, the creak of a sandal strap, the steady inhale and exhale, my own, then his, then even the mule's slower, deeper sigh. Let this moment stretch. We had walked for so long that the stillness felt thick. I looked at my hands and saw the dusk gathered between fingers, the little lines traced in sun. The sound of water in the skin flask, not quite full, but not empty, reminded me to drink, just enough. One swallow. I watched the way my own shadow leaned against a warm rock. Nothing moved, nothing needed to be done. The world waited with me as if the day had set down its work and chosen only to breathe beside us for a while. Let even your breath slow. I listened for voices, for footsteps coming, but there were only far-off calls from unseen shepherds, as if the land itself whispered back to God and waited for a reply. The man beside me stirred only enough to shift his cloak, careful, each movement quiet as prayer. His eyes drifted closed, not quite sleeping but letting go of needing to watch for anything. The silence wasn't empty. It was rounded out at the edges, like a basket holding every sound close. I felt how the light curled over the road. I watched an ant carry a seed over the stones, patient as breath. Let yourself breathe with the quiet. No one hurried us. Even the mule stood steady, its ears flicking now and then, waiting with a kind of wisdom I couldn't name. My arms ached, but not in a way I minded. It meant we were still here, safe in this soft, unmoving hour. The world grew simple under the sameness of light and shade. The air tasted dry. There was a sweetness when you just let your tongue rest, noticing without naming. I leaned against a stone and closed my eyes because there was truly nothing to do but rest and wait. Let even this stillness be holy. Shadows slipped past, long, slow lines stretching east. I counted breaths not on purpose, just so my mind would have something quiet to hold. The traveler's chest rose and fell under the Samaritan's cloak. Beside us, the dust settled and remained. Nobody spoke a blessing. Nobody asked for a miracle. I remembered how, all my life, the greatest comfort was sitting still and being allowed to finish a breath before moving on. The prayer here was silent, offered not with words but with the hush of waiting, gentle and kind. In this pause, I saw that God dwells where nothing stirs. Even the smallest pause, held long enough, draws heaven quietly nearer. Just let the night listen with you. There are days when the road is no more than a line of dust drifting away from home. Stones stay where they have always been, silent under sandals. The sun hangs a little lower now, painting everything in slow gold. Nothing wants to hurry. He walks with a kind of quiet measure, steps pressing softly into loose earth. People pass by, as people do. Some with baskets, others with folded cloth under their arms, all with somewhere to go. The road doesn't mind. It holds all of them, and it holds their stories for them also quietly. By this hour, shadows have grown longer. They spill from the edge of thorn bushes, running across the path, stretching and resting. The fig trees lift their leaves into the late breeze. Flies circle. You can hear the smallest sounds, stones settling, the outer edge of a goat bell, the soft hush as wind finds its way through dry grass. He feels the weight of his own cloak. It is not burdensome. You learn to carry things with time. One hand holds a pouch, bread, oil, maybe some wine wrapped in a rag so it won't break. He thinks only of the journey and the ground beneath him. But now ahead, at the furthest reach of seeing, there is a shape. It might be nothing. The way the rocks can seem like faces or bags left behind by travelers. He keeps walking. There is no rush in his body nor in the world around him. The light is gentle, the air full but still. Every breath is easy. He sees a splash of color, fabric likely. A cloak same as his but not moving. It all sits just a little apart from the living hush of the road. He stops, only for a moment. No one else seems to notice. Hoof prints scatter in the dust, along with the marks of sandals and travelers' wheels. People come and go, and the shape stays, quieter than the rest. His eyes follow the line of the road to that unmoving sight, a figure slumped, half hidden at the shoulder where the stones rise thin and jagged. He cannot see much else. The moment stretches. Even this silence is holy. No cry for help reaches him, only the gentle insistence of presence, like a lamp in the night, not calling but shining because that is what a lamp does. He lets the dust settle around his feet. Some birds pass with only a flicker of wing. He does not call out, he simply observes. He notices the way the figure's arm is curled under the shape of their head, as if sleep has found them there in the open. The cloak is torn, a faded patch where the color thins. He listens to his own breathing. It is even slow. Let this moment stretch. There is no rush. Night will come again and again. The road won't move. The world will wait for one heart to answer another. A pebble shifts beneath his sandal. He looks down. The ground is peppered with dry thistle and a single sprig of mint sneaking through a crack. It smells faint, cool in the evening. The weight of the air grows softer. He lets his shoulders sink just a little. All along, the world is holding its breath. There are tasks left for tomorrow and maybe letters unwritten. There is only this now, a man and another shape not moving halfway between the noise and the hush. He could keep walking. The city gates will close before long, but something anchors his feet. Not duty, not law, just the recognition of being near someone who needs something. Not everything, just something real and present like water poured slowly into a cup. He breathes in again. The sound of his own exhale is as gentle as evening falling. Around him, the sky is almost lavender, shifting. The shape ahead is untouched by the hour, still resting there with nothing but the ground for a pillow. No one notices the pause, but it is there, as sure as dusk settling over the fields. Let your own thoughts slow. Perhaps the first act of help is simple seeing, not fixing, not rushing, not noisily promising care, but seeing someone as they are where they are. No shouts, no urgency. The road itself grows still. A beetle crawls along a stone, moving in its own pattern. For a moment there is nothing but this, the steady heart of noticing, the full quiet of meeting need with your own open hands, even before any hand is lifted. He stands this way for a while, just standing, just letting the closeness gather around them both like a soft blanket. No words, no movement yet. Even the wind seems to pause, as if the world itself is listening to this space between knowing and action. He could count his blessings or his fears, but neither seem necessary. He only sees someone held by the road as he has been held so many times before. Let the quiet do its work. If you are listening, let your own worries settle in the dust. There is no task to accomplish, no story to finish tonight. Even this stillness, especially this stillness, is holy. Your breath, like his, can grow softer, slower. Far ahead, the city lights will glow soon. The road will continue whether you hurry or not. But here, with need quietly witnessed beneath a sky growing blue with sleep, there is nothing required but being present. No one asks more than this. So let this moment stretch, safe and slow. The night listens with you. The road looked quiet, dust-edged in the lazy gold of late afternoon. I walked but slowly. My footsteps pressed the earth with their own kind of prayer, closer, but still calm, closer, but unhurried. There's something gentle in being needed without hurry. My steps didn't change with worry or with panic, just a soft rhythm, the gentle thud of sandals meeting dirt. The wounded man lay ahead. I could see all his breaths, thin and uncertain, floating in the hush between us. The world didn't turn faster when I saw him. Even this close, time moved as softly as a blanket being drawn up over tired shoulders. The wind didn't speak, but I heard it, letting the moment stretch like it belonged to no one but us. Even this silence is holy. I stopped once or twice, shifting the weight of my small bag. Still calm, a little closer. Each step was a promise, not to startle, not to crowd, only to arrive with hands unhurried, heart steady. The edge of my robe brushed against my ankle, the same old smell of olive oil on my fingers, boring things sacred in them. He looked small in the road, not a lesson, just a person. I knelt beside him slowly. Sometimes the best way to care is to rest right beside pain, and not ask it to move any faster than it wants to. Nothing heroic, nothing loud, just the quiet solidity of being there. The sun hid behind a small tuft of cloud. I felt safe in the space between his wounds and my waiting, closer but still calm. The night listens with you. I set my water jug in the dust, tied the donkey's rope to a stone, let my knees settle, let my breathing steady. He did not reach for me and I did not push. There was comfort just in not leaving, in sharing this patch of earth, these small, slow breaths. Evening painted everything with old familiar blue. No rush, no need to change it all tonight. Only the ordinary work of presence, quiet as sitting beside someone you love after a long, hard day. Let this moment stretch. Let the hush be its own kind of shelter. Here we draw near, closer but still calm. He set the jar down on a flat stone, just near the resting place of the wounded man. The road had grown warmer as the sun climbed, but in this moment, here beneath the low shadow of an olive tree, all things slowed. He knelt, both his knees pressed into the pale dust, and he let his fingers test the handle. The jar was cool, heavy but not too heavy. The water waits, the water listens, the water soothes. He carried it the way he had carried burdens before, steady with care for its quiet weight. The footsteps made almost no sound. The man on the ground breathed the shallow breath of someone far away from comfort, but now the Samaritan was close, unmoving for a long moment, just letting the water rest between them. The water waits. He tilted the jar in his hand, slow as dusk approaching. The lip of the clay met the rim of a leather cup. He poured softly. Water met water. It murmured, so gentle it almost went unnoticed beneath the hush of wind, the gentle hum of noon insects. The water listens. He dipped a piece of cloth, folded over and over, into the cup. The edges darkened and grew heavy, taking the water in. "Here," he murmured, not expecting the man to reply. No one else was there, just the two of them and the water between them. He pressed the cloth to the stranger's forehead. The first drops cooled the skin, washing away a line of dust. The water soothes again. He returned to the jar. Every action repeated, unrushed. Dip the cloth, squeeze out the excess, rest your hand on a shoulder. He didn't speak much. Sometimes care is quieter than concern. He watched as the water gathered into small streams and ran down the traveler's cheek. The road was silent. The world had turned away just for now to let them be still beside the jar. The water waits, the water listens, the water soothes sometimes. The cup felt too large for such trembling hands. Sometimes the jar felt full of all the world's needs, but he carried it back and forth, soaking and wringing, washing and cooling, never hurried. There was nothing to solve, only to witness. The healing came in slowness. Let this moment stretch, a new strip of cloth, a new cup of water. Wash the wounds one at a time, never thinking of the journey ahead. Just this. A drop at a time, a touch at a time, a small river moving softly over skin and stone. The water waits. No one hurried them. Not the men on horseback who passed with their eyes averted, not the sky overhead. Only the water moved with purpose, called to soothe, to linger. And as he knelt, the Samaritan felt quiet himself. He did not wonder how long he would remain, or if he would leave in time for the evening meal. He just poured and pressed and waited. The watcher listens. Even silence is holy. He remembered moments when he too had needed water. A drink after working, a cloth on a fevered brow, the first cold cup after walking many miles. He thought then, sometimes kindness looks like lifting a jar instead of lifting a prayer. Sometimes you serve God by serving water to a stranger. The water soothes. The day had pressed on quietly. No one hurried now. The sun had settled in that low, kind way it does, stretching long shadows over the uneven road. The air cooled a little. Dust from the path clung to my skin, a soft coat of the day's work. Across from me, the Samaritan knelt beside the hurt man. I saw him reach for his cloak, a plain, earth-colored wrap, nothing fine, but tightly woven, useful for cold mornings, sometimes folded for a pillow, sometimes a shield from pebbles when resting along the trail. He caught its edge, rubbing the hem between his thumb and finger for a moment, as if thinking. The threads near the bottom were already soft and worn, the edge curling slightly from many washings. He gave a gentle tug. There was a muffled sound, almost like tearing bread, as the cloak began to part. Not all at once. He pulled carefully, thumbs creating a slow, steady line through the fabric. The loose end frayed under his hands. Threads poked out, catching a bit of sun in their fuzz. The strip was thicker and heavier than clean linen bandages, but sturdy. It smelled a little of dust and travel, the sleepy scent of wool and open air. He tore again, bit by bit, making narrow strips. Each new piece had an edge unlike the last, one with a tight weave, another looser, showing the marks of many journeys. I watched as his hands worked, strong and gentle, folding each piece over his knee, smoothing wrinkles with a flat palm. The wounded man barely moved, his hand still slack, his cheek turned to the packed earth. I could see his breath was slow, unsteady, deeper when the Samaritan was close. Slow breaths invite slower thoughts. I moved a little nearer, my own feet finding comfort in the hush. The Samaritan dipped one strip in his water, swirling it, then wrung it out with practiced care. He pressed the wet cloth to a scrape along the stranger's brow, dabbing rather than wiping, letting the cool seep and the dirt loosen on its own. Clay-colored water fell from the cloth, soaking into dust. I noticed how the bandage draped low from his hand, weighted, full of old journeys, now turned to something new. He measured the length around the damaged arm, looping once, twice, never pulling tight. He paused, made sure nothing pinched flesh or pressed too hard. He tied a simple knot, patient and small. The ends hung free, fibers unspooling. Every knot held a kind of quiet, like the closing of a prayer. Not showy, not proud, just useful. The wind shifted slightly, catching the smallest threads and making them dance. Each strip found a home. Forehead, arm, bare ankle. Slow, even wrapping. He lifted the wounded heel into the cradle of his palm, brushed away a pebble, then tucked the last cloth tenderly around it, the way you might tuck in a child at night. Let this moment stretch. The silence felt deep but not lonely. A few birds found their way to the roadside branches, settling for the evening. Their small feathers puffed against the coming cool. The bandages, now in place, shone a softer white against the skin beneath, collecting the faint light until dusk. I watched the Samaritan fold what remained of his cloak, now shorter at one side. He did not seem to mind. He placed the crumpled scraps beside the man's head, just beneath his ear, maybe as a cushion, maybe as a gesture. Some things you do simply because they help. No one needs to ask. He looked around for something to cover the traveler's shoulders. With a quiet habit, he laid a remaining part of the cloak loosely over the man's back, letting it fall in heavy folds, weighted but soft. I could see the wool catching bits of dusk, shadows hiding in its lines. The fabric's edge brushed the ground but never dragged. It felt like an embrace, low and silent. I thought about the fabric, how it carried the Samaritan's warmth. Days of walking pressed close to his own skin, now a barrier between the night and someone else's pain. No ceremony, just a quiet offering, cloth turned vessel, bandage, blanket, balm in one slow act. The hurt man did not wake fully. Still his shoulders relaxed, a slight sigh escaping into the hush. The road waited with us, the sounds growing small. Cloth settled over wound and worry. The tying of knots slowed the movement of time itself. Even this silence is holy. When the work felt finished, the Samaritan wiped his hands on what little edge was left. His fingers bore small red lines, marks where fabric had pressed and torn. I thought of all the times a cloak is just a cloak, until a neighbor needs more than warmth, until God's mercy is measured in patient, ordinary knots. For a little while, none of us spoke. I watched single threads curl in the soft dirt, wind tracing circles in the leftover scraps. The day faded deeper into blue. Someone far off called to a goat. Somewhere, a jug tipped and water ran thinly to the ground. I breathed with the evening, slow, deep, warm, emptying out. The Samaritan arranged the last corner of the cloak along the traveler's side. He tucked it in gently, finger by finger, as though every motion said, "You are seen." Cloth covered the bruises, but more than that, it protected the tiredness underneath, the bone-deep ache, known and unknown, in anyone who's ever fallen by the road. Each covering was a care, each knot a wordless prayer. Even here, at the quiet edges of things, compassion holds. The night listens with you. The sun was lowering, cool and round, just above the fields. I was close by, counting stones in the dust, listening for footsteps. The road felt empty until the sound of someone walking slow reached me. Not hurried, not afraid. The Samaritan carried the weight of a travel bag over one shoulder, but his hands were empty, open. They moved with an odd calmness. Not the quick touch of market crowds, but the steady, honest way you hold a child's hand to cross a stream. He stopped where the bruised man lay. For a moment, nothing moved, not even the cloth where the wind touched it. The Samaritan knelt slowly, like lowering himself into water, not out of duty, but as if the ground itself needed gentleness. His hands went first. I watched the way he paused, letting his own breath settle before reaching out, palm down, not clutching. A sign he meant no harm, only care. The air felt lighter around them. He found the man's shoulder, still and trembling. Not all wounds are red. Some are quiet and hidden, like sleep that won't come. The Samaritan's hands learned each shape, the curve of bone, the slack skin, grit from the road as if he was reading a map. Water trickled from a gourd into his palm. He was patient, not rushing the dirt away. Each pass of the cloth followed the slow count of a heartbeat. 1, 2, 3, let the moment stretch. In the valley, even silence is holy. A bandage, faded from old journeys, unwound from his pack. He didn't tug or twist, only wrapped it soft and sure, turning the cloth until it found its end. His fingertips tucked loose edges down, small, steady circles like drawing a hush over pain. I saw no miracle, only the blessing of simple hands. No sparks, no sudden light. He asked nothing from the injured man, not even his name, just offered presence. The world stayed ordinary. Goats brayed in the distance, flies spun above the earth, and the dusk pressed quietly at their backs. Sometimes safety is only the feeling of touch, not too tight, not falling away. The Samaritan's hands promised nothing except that they would not let go till it was time. That's all I saw, and it was enough. When the wounds were covered, he pressed a palm against the traveler's side. The gesture meant rest now, no hurry. He waited, letting the pace slow even further. Breath found its rhythm, one matching the next, soft, steady, even like waiting for sleep. The night listens with you. Even as the sun dipped away, the Samaritan's hands kept their slow patrol, lifting, supporting, never pushing. The traveler leaned in without a word, quiet trust given and returned. The road was long, but in this moment there was nothing to fear. He asked for nothing and still felt full. The story walked beside them, beneath the hush of evening, along the edge of things seen and unseen. And in the stillness, God was there, like a soft hand resting at your back, holding you exactly where you are. The road was long and there was no hurry. Dusk clung to the soles of my sandals, fine as flour, soft as dusk behind shut eyes. I followed them, the Samaritan and the quiet breathing shape he carried, a little ways back, just out of sight. The heat rippled above the stones, but ahead I watched him pause, and gently, as if it cost nothing to wait, veer off the path, under the slow arms of a fig tree. Shade meant stopping. Shade meant a place where the ground grew cool and people remembered how to breathe again. He let the wounded man lean near the trunk. The leaves above did not tremble or preach. They just were wide, patient hands opening against a brittle sky. Even the light seemed to lose its sharpness here. I stood at a distance. I could hear the Samaritan let out a breath, long and steady, almost a whisper. The same sound the traveler made, as if both hearts decided to rest at once. The silence was not uncomfortable. In fact, it felt safer than noise. Let this moment stretch. The shade drew a line around them, gentle as a mother's arm, and everything inside grew quieter by degrees. The traveler's face, tight from pain, softened. Breath moved easy, in and out, the way it does when you are almost asleep but not quite. I could see the chest rise and fall slowly, slowly, as time untied its knots. Dust flickered where sunlight met shadow. A grasshopper brushed my ankle. In the air it smelled a little of cool dirt and distant olives. I wanted to sit, so I did. No one noticed. No one needed to speak. Even this silence is holy. The Samaritan reached for his water skin, hand steady, uncorked it carefully, like opening a letter not meant for anyone else. He held it out, waited for the wounded one to sip, never rushed, never asked too much. The water dripped down the beard, caught on the chin. For a long minute nothing moved but breath. Let your own breath find that same rhythm. Breathe in. Feel the coolness. Breathe out. Let any sharpness leave. Breathe in. Stay hidden in the shade a little longer. Breathe out and let the world narrow to the space beneath this tree. There isn't much to do and nothing that must be done soon. The Samaritan shifted a little, adjusted his cloak so it touched the traveler's shoulder, just so, enough warmth not to feel alone. He looked up at the leaves, followed them in the breeze, and exhaled. Every small thing was noticed, but nothing was demanded. A donkey chewed at the grass nearby, a slow, sleepy sound. Far away, some laughter, the kind that doesn't need an answer. The world around them didn't know there had been any trouble at all. Here they were just two men in the shade, listening to their own breath, waiting until the sun moved a finger-width lower in the sky. The wounds didn't disappear, he just held them softly, surrounded by patience, letting rest do what words couldn't. You can let your eyes close if you want. The traveler's chest rose, fell, rose again. The Samaritan matched him, heartbeat for heartbeat, so slowly the air between them felt padded with peace. A bird landed on a branch above and hopped once. Everything waited, nothing hurried. Let this moment stretch. No miracle announced itself. No voice spoke from heaven. The shade held. The day paused, not broken, not fixed, just still. I lay back and looked at the sky through gaps in the branches. Cloudless. Too wide for worries. I wondered if God rested too in moments like this, quiet beside us, happy to share the same air, the same patience, the same unhurried breath. He asked for nothing and still felt full. Someone shifted again, a foot brushing softly against soil. The Samaritan retied his bandage, not because it had come loose, but because the world seemed to move with slow, careful hands. Even his knots looked like prayers, silent, practiced, unfussy, holding what little needed holding. Let your own breath become a little slower, a little safer. You are with them now, just before the journey picks up again, while the day is cool, while there is nothing to do. The shade will last as long as you need it. No one will ask you to leave too soon. When it's time to rise, you will know, but not yet. For now, there is only pause, only shelter, only the comfort of slow breathing and a little protection from the heat. Sometimes that's all the holiness anyone needs. The night listens with you, and in the shelter, breath by breath, you become a little lighter, a little more at peace. You do not have to hurry to healing. All you must do is rest, and let the shade cover you until you're ready to walk again. The donkey stood in the quiet, not minding the heavy air or the tiny stones that pressed into its hooves. A little back, I watched the Samaritan move with the slow patience of a man who knows there is nowhere to be except here. His hands, steady and warm, found the traveler's shoulder. The hurt man did not flinch. It was all softness, the way you might lift a sleeping child or guide a friend out of afternoon sun. Together they eased the traveler closer, a small sound from the leather on dust, one careful breath at a time. First the weight of a cloak, then the grip of rough cloth in the Samaritan's hand. No words were exchanged, just the hush of the road stretching ahead. With every pause, I felt the world become gentler. Even the sky seemed to lower. The donkey blinked, patient as the Samaritan guided the traveler up. There were no sharp movements. Every lift was a kindness. Every adjustment slower than the last, comfort stretched out, letting the aching body find a new way to be. Even the wind held its breath. When at last the wounded man settled on the donkey's back, the animal shifted just enough. The beat of its hooves drummed softly, a lulling rhythm, not quick, not slow, just enough that it could rock a person safe. The road was long and the footsteps were like soft knocks at the door of rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, the same way a mother's hand might pat a baby's back in the night. I noticed the Samaritan walked beside the donkey, hand always there, steadying but never rushing, as if the whole world moved at the pace of mercy. Sand scraped softly under each foot. The sun edged lower, painting their shadows together, wide and peaceful. Sometimes the traveler's head would lean forward, sleep tugging at bruised skin. The Samaritan's hand would rise just in case. Not to wake, just to promise safety, even between footsteps. No one spoke of the pain. The only thing that mattered was the moving together toward nowhere special except away from hurt. The air cooled. A bird called once from a fig tree, and then the donkey's pace answered, solid, familiar, unhurried. It was almost boring how steady everything became. Breath stretched. The story moved forward as gently as the donkey on the open road. When the sun was almost gone, the Samaritan stopped once to check again. The bandage hadn't slipped, the skin felt cool, the wounds clean. The traveler's eyes blinked slow, nearly closed. The donkey stood still, as if waiting for everyone's heart to match its rhythm. Safety wasn't a thing you could see. It was the feel of cloth smoothed against skin, the beat of hooves on an endless path, the slow, steady presence of someone walking with you, never letting go. I looked at the moon, pale and soft. The road would go on a while. There was no hurry. The gentle movement promised tomorrow, the hush after hurt, the light touch of another's care. Lord, let me move as slowly as love. Let every step be soft. Amen. Stillness holds me. The Lord knows my breath. I am not forgotten. God walks slowly, too. Grace is here. Safety waits in the quiet. Mercy wraps around me. I am enough for tonight. Amen. 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 The road feels longer at sunset. Dust rises, settles, rises again. Stones roll beneath each slow step. The Samaritan and the wounded man move together, silent and unhurried. The road is quiet now, just the two of them and the steady scrape of sandals, always a little grit where the soles meet the earth. The air tastes like dust and something old, almost familiar, like flour left in a stone bowl. The horizon stretches pale and endless. Nothing to do now except walk. The wounded man leans against the Samaritan, gentle, trembling. He is quiet. There is only the sound of feet, the soft pull of breath, the slow patience of an evening road. They do not speak. Words aren't needed. The silence does enough. A palm on the traveler's shoulder, the jostle of a water skin, the road. Always the road. Dust in the cuffs, dust on the skin, dust finding every crease and line. Once they pause by a low stone. The Samaritan lets his burden rest for a moment. The light hangs low, striped gold and shadow dust stirs in the air as he folds his robe a little tighter. The hurt man breathes unevenly, holding the world together in his closed eyes. There's time. The road asks nothing but patience. Every pebble carries a story. Some feel round and warm, some sharp. The road remembers every foot, every night like this. The wounds are bandaged, but the ache is slow to leave. The Samaritan checks the cloths, not to hurry, just to see. The knot holds. The bandage cradles, everything is still. A donkey's shuffle draws a line in the dust, tiny patterns in the world beneath them. Sometimes the breeze teases, a silent gift. Sometimes there is only stillness, a hush so holy even the birds forget to call. It is enough just to walk, just to offer a presence beside pain. The road rolls out ahead. Dust, stone, horizon, dust, stone, horizon. Faint sounds drift from somewhere not near. A child laughs far off. A dog barks then falls quiet again. The edge of the village is distant, but the road does not shrink. It holds them. It gives them space. Step after slow step, careful not to jar the wounded one. Dust and stone and horizon. They walk past thorny rowan, the sharp tang mixing with dry air. The Samaritan hums not a song, just a line, more breath than melody. The tired man leans more. There is no rush. The night will wait. Even the dust seems to rest under the weight of evening. A small lizard scuttles up a rock. The world is made of unimportant movements that keep it turning. Sand shifts, grass bows. Every step remakes the dust, and every stone keeps its secret. There are no miracles now, only sameness, the humble rhythm of moving forward quietly. Now and then the Samaritan wipes sweat from his brow. The air grows cooler, and the colors fade from gold to gray-blue. Still, the dust persists soft, unhurried, a quiet blanket beneath and behind them. The horizon remains, always just out of reach. The road curves gentle. The inn is somewhere up ahead, but there is no hurry. The sky bruises to plumb. The wounded man's breath steadies in the dusk. No one is watching. No one applauds. The Samaritan ties another knot in the bandage, stronger this time, letting silence speak its healing. Dust and stone, horizon. Some stones bear faded marks, old wagon ruts, traces of other travels. The road remembers them all. Each step brings a tiny ease, as if the pain can be left behind with the pattern of footprints filling behind them. A cricket begins its small hymn. The air thickens, cooling. The Samaritan feels the weight of the man, of duty, of the road itself. He asked for nothing and still felt full. Just dust, just stone, just the low horizon waiting gently ahead. A period of listening, broken by nothing but footsteps, dull, scuffed. The pace does not quicken, does not slow. The road will not judge. The journey is its own answer, silent, steady, almost sacred in its repetition. Time passes, but who could say how much? The Samaritan holds the reins, leads the donkey, glances back. The man's eyes are closed now. Each breath stretches deep and easy. The road is their home tonight, dust, stone, horizon, dust, stone, horizon. The only audience is silence. It is enough. The inn's lamps glow faint in the distance, a welcome smaller than a promise but brighter than nothing. The traveler stirs only slightly. The Samaritan presses his palm gently to reassure. They are not alone. Not now. Not ever. The road brought them this far. Soon soft beds and warm bread will wait. But for now only the road, only each other, only dust beneath, stone beside, and horizon ahead. Step, step, silence, breath. Every ordinary thing made holy by being seen, by being held, by simply being carried slowly, quietly together, toward sanctuary. The day let go slowly, as if it didn't want to leave. Shadows stretched along the road, long ribbons moving past stones and thorny grass. Everything was quieter from where I waited, leaning against a sun-warmed fence. It was the kind of quiet that asks you to exhale a little deeper, to notice your own heart beating slower, not needing to hurry anytime soon. The Samaritan was still there in the safe edge of the lane. He didn't rush, not even after all that had been done. I watched him rinse his hands in a trickle of water, fingers moving like careful thoughts. The water caught a faint golden light, the last of the sun's halo washing over rough skin, bandages, and the curve of a weary palm. It's easy, there, at the close of day, to believe in gentleness. I remember wishing that every evening could end this way. Nothing asked of me but to be present, steady, and quiet. He reached for his cloak, draped it over the traveler. and then press the corners smooth so the cloth wouldn't slip. Each fold made a soft sound like a lullaby for grown-ups, ones who hardly remembered what it's like to be tucked in. Nothing had to be perfect. It only had to be done with attention, and it was. The dusk didn't care about the world's busyness. It cared about small kindnesses left unannounced. As the sun lowered, the colors softened. Harsher reds and hard browns faded into gentle grays, tender violets, a sea of blue just above the hills. The dust in the air all but disappeared. It seemed as if the whole world was brushing the tiredness from its eyelids. Birds said good night not loudly, just here and there. One by one, the evening listened. The inn was close now, but the walk had gotten slower. The road itself cooled beneath our feet. Even my toes relaxed inside my sandals at the simple relief of dusk. There was no need to speak. The Samaritan's hands, the safe press of his shoulder against the injured man, these were all the answers required tonight. I watched light slip across the bandage, a line of gold, then nothing, a slow breath with each step, the kind of breathing that empties you, makes room inside for something different. Gratitude, maybe, or just the freedom of not being in pain for a minute, which could be enough. Shadows grew longer, blankets wrapping the land. The stones lost their sharpness in the cooling dark. I thought about how the worst of the day had already happened here, fights and wounds and fear. Now there was only the work of keeping someone warm and letting the darkness be gentle. The mule's harness gave a soft jingle. Somewhere a pot clinked. The air tasted rounder, not quite sweet but filled with something new, hope maybe, or simply the absence of worry, like how you feel when everything that needed to be done has finally happened and now there is stillness left. I sat, or maybe I just settled. That's what the body wants at night, to sink a little lower, to let gravity win for a while. My pulse felt slower, chest rising and falling, air cool at the tip of my nose. I closed my eyes for only a moment, and the faint warmth of the sun stayed with me behind the eyelids, a memory of safe places, sometimes found by accident, sometimes carried by others. Farther up the road, a lamp flickered by the inn's low door. Its light was too small to banish night, but just enough to mark arrival. The Samaritan steadied the traveler's steps, and together they moved past the edge of my seeing. No one hurried. You could hear the difference, the shuffle of sandals, the hush of voices, softer than wind. Everyone seemed to walk a little slower as the day slipped away. A goat moved in the grass, finding a place to curl up. The breeze, once sharp, fell shy and thin, touching only the edges of my face. I remembered to breathe long, slow inhales, like drawing water from a deep well, and out again, easy. The world was not perfect, but goodness had passed by my door and I hadn't missed it. Still, dusk brings questions. Who else needs help? Who waits in the half-light hoping for one act of mercy? But tonight those questions can rest. Even the troubles are quieter in the blue shade of evening. They wait too. One lantern, two shadows drifting across the door. The sky settled on indigo, stars blinking awake one by one, unhurried. I let my thoughts fade with the light. There would be more sunrises, more journeys, more ordinary nights. But for now, just the soft calm of not being alone, the weight of the air holding you gently, the hush of an undramatic rescue quietly settling into bone and memory. Let your own breath slow as the story does. Let the hush of evening stretch farther, wider, until you fit safely inside it. Trust that the world can be soft, that the best things unfold quietly, unmarked by any crowd. Maybe tonight, do nothing at all except let the day cool around you, and let kindness be the last thing you remember before sleep. The sky had gone soft and purple. Dusk clung to every step, quiet and close. The Samaritan's hand matched the slow rhythm of the donkey's reins, not hurried, not lost, just present, breath by breath, along the road's ending edge. The inn sat tucked behind a low wall, clay pressed by old hands, padded smooth by years of gentle patience. Its roof sagged a little, as if it too had walked all this way and needed to sit down for a moment. Smoke curled from the hearth inside, a thin column reaching up, then giving up, disappearing into the still air. Long before the inn itself appeared, the scents arrived: warm bread, wet hay, simmered lentils. The tired traveler breathed in without meaning to. The donkey's ears twitched. The Samaritan closed his eyes and for a moment forgot the wounds, forgot the road. Something about aroma had always meant shelter, even when he was a boy, lost in his own fields, returning home by scent alone. There was a hush that greeted them, not silence, the soft nicker of another donkey, a crackle from the kitchen fire, footfalls muffled by swept earth. No one hurried to meet them. No one asked questions. Just the simple permission to arrive and rest. A lantern glowed by the inn's low door, flame quivering behind yellowed glass. The wood was marked with fingerprints, people who arrived in the night, hands full of packets, wounds, food, worry. Each dent and scratch seemed to catch the light, holding the memory of someone who came seeking care. The Samaritan stopped just short of the open gate. Dust from the road caught in the folds of his robe. He glanced at the wounded man, still quiet in the blanket's cradle, then back to the slow breath of smoke drifting above. He did not whisper a prayer. He did not need to. Everything here already felt like an answer. He eased the donkey forward, careful not to jostle. The animal's hooves hit the packed earth with a gentle thud, again and again. Every step counted, each one a tiny promise. You're closer now, you're safe here. Just before the doorway, the Samaritan paused. He heard water simmering, smelled onions cooking, and further off, faint soap from someone cleaning up after a meal. These were things he'd noticed every night of his life, but tonight they meant more. They meant the world was still turning in small, ordinary circles. Simple routines went on, fires paused for nothing, bread went on baking. Someone swept the floor even as darkness folded in around them all. He looked down at his own hands, sticky still with blood and oil. He found the basin by the door and dunked his fingers in the cool water, rubbing them clean under the inn's lantern light. It felt strange how washing something small could gladden the heart almost as much as patching a wound. A sigh tugged at his chest. He let it out slow. Inside the inn, someone spoke softly, a greeting but not a question. The Samaritan nodded and answered quiet, pointing toward the bundled shape still draped across the donkey's broad back. No rush, no judgment, just gentle readiness, like the table set for strangers and friends alike. Let this moment stretch, steps from the road slip into the shelter of clay walls, the aroma of soup and straw, the slow exhale of a place that is used to holding all the tired ones. Even this silence is holy. He asked for nothing and still felt full. Stone steps, not many of them, but after the long road, each one seemed softer than the ground outside. The Samaritan let his weight settle slowly with every footfall. He guided the wounded man beside, gently, not in any hurry. No one was, the inn's door stood open. Someone must have left it that way. A welcome, maybe. Wood worn smooth at the edge, cool where the shadow met his hand. He paused, steadying the traveler. The air inside was a hush, quieter than the open world but not silent. It felt like a hand resting on your back, slow, firm, saying you could come in now. Inside, shoes scuffed on the stone. Not quickly, not loud. He didn't mean to make noise, but the stones had their own memories, soft marks from baskets, sandals, maybe goats earlier that day. One lamp flickered gently near the far wall. The light didn't chase away all the corners, but it didn't need to. Most things rested in shadows anyway. When he looked down, he could see dust left in the cracks from the road, traces of travel still there, even past the threshold. The wounded man's breath was shallow now, but not sharp. You could hear it if you listened. Nothing was hidden here. He let his palm feel along the wall, just to balance, not to lean. The rough stone was cooler than the night air, dry but solid, a different comfort from sand and brambles by the roadside. One more step, then another. Each step was half a hope. The moment stretched out, long and patient. At the far side, someone set down a jar. Not with a clatter, just a small, rounded sound on wood. The floor there was softer, boards worn smooth by generations of feet. The Samaritan's cloak slipped from his shoulder. He let it go, feeling its weight drag across his palm. The fabric was thick with old dust and oil. He folded it, careful as he could manage, tucking it near the wounded traveler. No words passed between them yet, only the careful tying of a bandage and the quiet settling of things into place, the sound of linen brushing skin, the knot pulled snug but not too tight. Bandages had their own language. He knew how to listen. Each gesture meant, "You are here, you are safe, rest a little." Outside, the road kept its distance. Evening was heavier there, but inside the inn, voices, if there were any, moved gently. A cup lifted, a sigh, the crickets farther off now but still singing to the night. It didn't matter how he'd come to be there or how long he would stay. Tonight, care unfolded one tiny act at a time, holding up the traveler's head, smoothing the ground with a quiet hand, sharing a piece of bread. Even the way the wooden pitcher creaked was unhurried. Peace in small sounds. He asked for nothing and still felt full. The old boards, the stone underfoot, the dust on his cloak, all of it part of a shelter. He let his eyes close for a breath. Sometimes you didn't need answers, just a place where the world softened, where breath slowed to match the quiet of a sacred room, wherever you found it. The room was quiet after a journey that had asked for everything. I watched from the corner, a cloth folded in my hands, as they eased the injured traveler down slowly onto a mat woven from reeds. I didn't see much of his face, just the careful way the Samaritan steadied him by the shoulder, and how the weight of his body pressed softly into the straw below. There's a sound when old straw bends beneath a tired back, not sharp, just a long exhale. The innkeeper hadn't said much. Maybe he knew words could stir dust when what was needed was stillness. I moved quietly, setting the folded cloth near the doorway. No one looked over, but I listened to their breathing. It was careful, like the hush that settles on the house just after sundown, when animals bed down and lamps are trimmed and you can almost hear your own heart again. Resting, resting, resting. This mat had been used by others too. The reed was patched in places, a basket maker's touch here and there, keeping the old strong enough for a few more nights. I ran my hand across it, feeling the patterns the fingers made. Broken but mended, worn but ready. The traveler didn't say much. He shivered a bit, so the Samaritan spread his cloak across him. The edge brushed my feet as it settled. I remembered how heavy a good cloak feels at the end of a long day, pulling you closer to the earth. Safe. The door was left slightly open. In the courtyard, a goat or two, shifted in the straw. The sound was dull, sort of like rain on an empty basket. Nothing that called attention. Just proof that life went on, even while healing happened quietly, beneath a roof thick with memory and dust. Resting, resting, resting. Time passed in the slow way it does when nobody is watching. The Samaritan wiped the traveler's brow. Not hurried, just present, moving cloth in slow circles. I noticed how his breathing calmed each time. There isn't much to do in a room like this. I sat against the wall and closed my eyes, pretending I was somewhere else, but the scent of straw and old reed kept me right here. Every little thing felt heavy in a gentle way. Arms loose, hands open. The mat creaked as the Samaritan shifted his weight, but it was a kindly sound, like someone sitting by the fire, waiting for bread to rise. At the edge of the room, a lamp flickered. Its light fell across the reed, pooling in dips and low spots. There was a story in every patch, nights spent, feet rested, prayers offered in the kind of silence that never needs a voice. Resting, 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 the innkeeper brought water. He didn't speak, just set the jug near the mat, as if it was all part of the same quiet work. I watched as the Samaritan dipped a corner of cloth and touched it, one circle at a time, to places that hurt. All we could do was wait. Sometimes waiting is enough. Outside, the evening deepened. A breeze slipped through the crack in the door, stirring the corner of the cloak. No one moved to fix it. The weight was enough. I thought about how many nights are just like this one. Work done for the day, nothing left but rest. Straw and reed and shade, the promise that on mats old and new, someone will rest tonight. Resting, resting, resting. If anyone prayed, it was under their breath. I didn't hear a single word. The lamp's shadow made lines on the wall, and beyond them I guessed the sky had started to darken. I imagined the stars coming out, each holding its post, keeping watch in unseen ways. Everything in the room seemed to settle, as if we all agreed to put down our burdens for a while. No one counted the wounds. No one asked for a story. Some nights the only story is the sound of breathing, warm and slow. The mat, already shaped by years of lying down and getting up, gave itself to the weight of another. No protest, no pride, just support. Sometimes I think the ground itself wants us to rest. Resting, resting, resting. I thought I would feel uneasy next to so much pain, but I didn't. The Samaritan's hands moved in small, patient acts, tucking in the edge of the mat, smoothing out a wrinkle by the traveler's knee. When he was done, he sat down on his heels and closed his eyes for a breath. That quiet was almost as gentle as the mat itself. Some time passed before anyone moved again. The sounds outside softened. Someone chopped wood nearby, the distant thudding fading out as if the whole world wanted to rest, joined by the repetition. Resting, resting, resting. I let my thoughts go. Each time they drifted toward worry or memory, I came back to the present. A mat, a cloak, the comforting scratch of straw against skin, the small mercy of a roof overhead. That was enough. No light from the street found its way in. Just lamplight, straw, and the solid shape of the Samaritan, unmoved. Like he had decided to keep watch as long as there was night left. He asked for nothing, and still felt full. Resting, resting, resting. Sometimes the most sacred thing is the simplest. Someone to lift you, gentle hands, a mat with a story, straw bending but never breaking. In the stillness, God's peace fills up the empty spaces, quiet, steady, unnoticed, but always present. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. The mat will hold him tonight. The straw will cradle his weight. The room will protect his dreams. For now, that's enough. Resting, resting, resting. Dinner happened quietly there by the roadside. As dusk drifted down and the hills turned softly blue, the Samaritan set down a warm clay bowl, not at the middle of a table, but on the ground between himself and the man he'd helped. It was just beside a patch of wild thyme, dust catching in the evening stillness. You could smell roasted grain before you saw the bread itself, wrapped in a bit of old cloth. Its edges were singed dark, carrying the gentle warmth of a fire that had long gone out. The bowl held nothing fancy, just thick oil, golden and honest, flickering with the smallest reflection of twilight. It looked like the sort of meal you would eat in silence, or share with no one watching. The wounded man was still and slow, but his stomach made a soft sound, reminding them both of hunger. The Samaritan broke the bread, no tearing, just a careful bend so nothing would fall. He offered a piece without a word, holding it until the other's hand could reach. Fingers brushed for an instant, soft skin and rough skin, clay bowl between them, dust rising quietly in the lowering light. The bread was dipped in oil, small circles, gentle, nothing hurried. The scent of olive pressed close, tangled with roasted wheat. It made the air heavy and kind, promising nothing more than a mouthful at a time. They did not rush. Each bit lifted and brought to lips felt heavier than usual, as if the bread itself knew the day's weariness. Eating together like this felt like the only thing left to do. No one asked for a blessing out loud. Still, something softer hummed through the quiet, the sort of peace you taste as much as hear or see. Crumbs fell into laps and no one cared. Each bite was a small answer to the ache in their bellies and in their faces. There was the same kind of silence you might find in an old place of prayer. You could hear the oil running a little in the bowl, sticky and slow. Each time the bread was dipped, it pressed down just enough to nudge the bowl along the dirt. Another small, harmless sound. The bowl was thick, rough on the outside, cool to touch where the oil didn't reach. No one tried to speak. There was nothing special to say. Neither man thought of tomorrow's meal, or even the next day's walk. The only thing that mattered now was to share what they had. And in that dusky light, food felt like enough. A reason for bodies to stay close, for hands to stay busy. Dusk drifted on, and their eating slowed even more. The way sleep creeps toward you without asking. Somewhere nearby, a cricket started stuttering, its song rising, falling, then quiet again. No birds now, only the hush of the road and the low breath of two men. The clay bowl, warm now to the touch, carried the last of the oil. When one of them finished, the other did not hurry. A hand rested on the edge of the bowl a moment longer, enjoying the last smear of golden oil. Just to feel something good rest there. The Samaritan's cloak slipping from his shoulders now that the air had cooled, became a place for the other man to lean against, soft, smelling of sweat and dust and a little straw from the inn. There was a kind of holiness in how they rested side by side, nothing between them but breath and clay and old bread. You could almost believe that God himself liked the taste of roasted grain, or maybe that God was the quiet between one bite and the next. No one asked for more. When the food was gone, they each knew to sit a while longer, chewing on nothing, letting oil and bread and sleep sink where they needed to. The night grew darker but not colder. It smelled of wheat and olives, but also the earth, and the faint tang of smoke from the fire that had kept the bread warm earlier. The kind of smell you carry home in your hair and remember without meaning to. They did not look at each other right away. The Samaritan studied his fingers, oil shining in the last of the light. The other man studied the edge of the bowl. Neither wanted to move. There was no need to fill the silence. Each let it stretch out, longer and longer, the way the road might stretch through the valley beyond the rise. You could almost fall asleep there, cross-legged in the dust, the last bit of oil sweet on your tongue, letting off hunger, letting off fear. The road behind and ahead faded, unimportant for a while. And for that brief moment, presence became the meal itself, nourishment not from plenty, but from staying and sharing and being noticed. A dog barked far off. Some voices glimmered like small flames from the inn. But here, in the edge of evening, bread and oil again made a kind of communion, one that didn't need to be spoken or named. Each did what little was needed. Nothing wasted, no one in a hurry. He asked for nothing, and still felt full. If you're listening, let this quiet meal stretch out beside you. Let this holy boredom hold you safe, even if your eyes are closing now. The scent of oil, the warmth of clay, the hush between two travelers, these belong to you too as you rest tonight. The inn's door closed behind them, quiet, sure. There were no stories left to tell tonight, only the hush of thick stone walls and the careful light. A lamp glowed in the corner, swinging just enough to make gentle shadows stretch and fold on the soft white of the blanket. Each swing traced slow circles on the wall, in, out. Let your breath match the movement, long and gentle, like nothing has to change. The traveler's breathing slowed. I could hear it deep in the room, as if the silence had shape. The Samaritan's footsteps padded around the small space, soft as worn sandals, every step measured so sleep could take its time. He set down a jug of water, careful not to wake the dreams just beginning here. The cloth he'd used for bandages rested now on a clean, folded stack, smoothed out with both hands, as if the touch alone could take away pain. Let's take a breath with the swing of the lamplight. In and out, the room smelled of warm linen and dust, nothing sharp, nothing loud. The air was made of safety. Every movement now was quiet enough for sleep to listen. The inn's window, high up, was only a patch of cool night. No voices from the village square could reach this room. Just a moth tapping near the lamp, wings flicking in and out of the gleam. With every flicker, another breath, soft and slow. Let your eyes get heavy. The Samaritan pressed his palm over the traveler's brow, only for a moment, checking, maybe for fever, or maybe just reminding himself that care can be silent. He drew the thin blanket higher, careful not to pull too hard, and sat down in the farthest corner, his shoulders curled against the stone. The lamp swung again, shadows moving as you breathe in and out. No one spoke. Even the night seemed to pause just outside the door, holding until healing could come slowly, not all at once, but in meeting every gentle need. Every small kindness added up to a softer night. The faint rustle of linen, a sigh, not a sound. The room held every breath like prayer. Let the shadows rest on the walls, let your chest rise and fall, slow as lamplight. Nothing is needed now. Safety is here, inside these ordinary things. You are allowed to rest for as long as it takes. The Samaritan's head nodded forward once, then stilled. Two souls, breathing in an enclosed quiet, waiting for nothing at all but morning. The room had gone quiet except for the tiniest movements, a spoon settling in a bowl, a slow breath, the hush of a hand smoothing the edge of a blanket. The traveler's eyes were closed. His face, drawn with the day's pain, had smoothed just a little in sleep. Across from him, the Samaritan sat on a low wooden stool, his hands folded, not busy anymore, only steady, still. He felt the comfort of dusk settle over his shoulders like a second cloak. Lamps burned gentle halos along the walls. The inn was silent except for the sound of settling, of breathing, of bodies at rest. There was nothing left to do except wait and breathe and hold the silent company of another's pain, wrapped up now, bandaged, surrounded by night. He felt thankful, without shape or sentence, only as the warmth in his chest when work was finished. Thankful for quiet, thankful for hands that could help, thankful for the weight of rest in the air, thankful like water pours over stones, each simple, slow, silent. Thank you, he thought, not a word but a feeling that moved from his breath to his bones. Thank you for this night. Thank you for safe shelter. Thank you for this odd, holy chance to care for a stranger. Thank you for the calm. Thank you for the hush. Thank you for the hour of just being here. He sat in stillness, repeating thanks with each breath in and each breath out. Not rushing to say it, just letting it live in his bones. Thank you, God, for the road that led me here. Thank you for the pause. Thank you for the slow unfolding of kindness. Thank you for silence. Thank you for the bandage and the coolness of water and the stranger's grateful sigh. He was not a man of many words. His gratitude did not need his voice. He let his body do the speaking. He rested his tired feet, let his hands go slack, let his shoulders settle. This is what thank you looks like, he thought. Just being here, just breathing out, just letting his heart grow soft with relief. He did not rise. He did not pace or plot. He only sat in the sacred hush of the guest room, keeping company with the wounded man and with God. Thank you, he said by not saying it. Thank you with each soft exhale. Thank you in the slow rhythm of watching over someone in the quiet. Outside, the darkness listened. The moon slid along the stone windowsill. Somewhere, a donkey shifted and the rafters settled. The whole world seemed to know how to rest now. Thank you, he breathed, for peace like this. Thank you for work done and for work waiting tomorrow. Thank you for every unnoticed kindness. Thank you for the gift of evening, for the gift of silence, for the gift of a friend, if only for a night. The Samaritan did not need applause. He did not need anyone to witness his prayer. Each minute that passed, his soul grew quieter, grateful, still. A stillness that said again and again, thank you, thank you, thank you. The hours moved on. Warm lamplight, soft breathing, grateful stillness pressed between them like folded cloth. All he offered was presence, and all that presence held was gratitude, patient and silent and enough. Some nights you hear things you don't notice in the day. There's no hurry left, only the hush after all the work. The road where I sat is empty now. The days fade early, just a thin violet line behind the olive trees. Everything feels smaller in the dark. Even the wounds, even the worries, even silence. Even silence is holy. Crickets click somewhere in the weeds. It's not a chorus, not a song, just a handful of tired chirps. A step, a pause, a whisper of grass. The same old world speaking under its breath. I remember the night by the roadside, the way the rocks pressed against my sandals. Every small sound, a lullaby for a soul that has seen enough. There's the distant sound of moving water, slower than a river, steadier than rain. I never could see it, but it was always there, shaping the edge of rest. When the wind settles, you can hear your own heart, and the world gives you back your quiet. Even silence is holy on the path. A donkey shifts its weight. The bridle sighs. The man who was hurt, his breaths grow smoother, deeper. Nothing left to do but listen. There are no urgent hands, no hurried voices. Just a steady, sleeping promise in the air. I listen close because some nights a holy thing sounds almost like nothing, just one tired person helping another. Even silence is holy here. The inn is not far, but for now we rest at the edge of the road. My cloak settles over his shoulders. The rough hem scratches softly like linen drawn across sand. You can hear the quiet if you let yourself. Every small sound says, "You are here, you are safe." Let this moment stretch, even this, a hush between footfalls, crickets skipping over the hush holds something sacred. Even silence is holy. The oil I used to wash his wounds cools in the dark. When I uncapped the jar, the soft pop echoed farther than my voice ever could. It surprised a bird in the grass. I only heard the wings. I tie a bandage, slow and careful. Cloth against skin, skin against earth, earth against the endless hush. Every knot I make is a kind of saying, "You will see another morning." No one is watching, no one is counting. But God is somewhere in the night time, behind every small, invisible sound. Even silence is holy. A door creaks far off. Someone in the inn is checking lamps. The yellow light doesn't reach us, but we aren't lost. The night carries us softly. I blink slower. My hands rest in my lap. I let the road keep its secrets. The man sleeps now. His body curls towards warmth as if the world hasn't been cruel at all. His bandages keep the wounds quiet. The dark keeps the fever away. Around us nothing moves but shadows. Even silence. Yes, even silence is holy. It's only night sounds, but tonight they feel larger. I listen to crickets, to footsteps in dust, to the hush between. Not every prayer needs a word, not every holy thing needs to shine. Even silence is holy. That is enough. I rest, too, on the ground by the road, under the eyes of a God who moves quiet as any breeze. Small sounds hold me. The deepest part of the world is sleeping. Let this quiet stay with you where you lay your head. Even the stillness, the calm tokens of night are gifts. Even silence is holy. There's a little lamp on a clay shelf just above where the blankets gather and settle for the night. Its bowl is rough and solid in my hand, the kind of thing you don't remember buying because you don't have to. It's just always been there, a small part of a quiet life, waiting each evening for oil, a fresh wick, the small work of a steady hand. I watch the flame tonight. I don't sleep, not yet. Someone is breathing quietly nearby, shifting under a blanket. The lamp glows about the size of a fig, soft gold, nothing showy, just a little warmth. I wait for the first flicker, there it is. A ripple of light bending to a draft I can't feel. Flicker, fade, flicker, fade. Shadows drift across clay walls, long and slow, like a yawn stretching further than it needs to. The flame doesn't mind. Each time a shadow shivers, the light returns. Flicker, fade. The room is patient with the waiting. This is the hour when no one interrupts, only the lamp speaking in its gentle, wordless way. Flicker, fade, flicker. My eyes fix on the soft motion. I see how the flame dances, but never in a hurry. Its movements are ordinary small. Flicker, fade. Even when I blink, the quiet stays. There is no question waiting to be answered, not now. I let the clay cool in my palm, the edge of the lamp smoothing into my skin. Flicker, fade. Sometimes I remember stories, old ones about oil and miracles and midnight lamps. Someone far away, awake, waiting. But this is different. There's no lesson to gather, not tonight. Only the sound of gentle oil shifting, the faint smell of burnt thread, the hush between flicker fade. When the flame shrinks, I add a drop of oil and watch it grow quietly again. I hear a soft footstep, maybe a neighbor returning late, or a donkey shifting in its pen. It's not important. Everything here feels unhurried. The lamp holds its circle of light, just big enough for me to see my hands, the worn line of a mat, the edge of a folded cloak. Flicker, fade, I watch for a while, longer than I plan, letting each breath follow the rhythm. Light and shadow, movement and rest. Even the night moves carefully around us, careful not to disturb the lamp's lullaby. I wonder if anyone else is watching in their homes or on the road and feel a small comfort. I am not the only one awake with the flame. Flicker, fade, soon. The wick will burn down. The oil will give what it can. Before that, I dip my finger in the pool of light, feeling the faintest trace of warmth left over. Someone sighs beside me. I lay back, eyes half open, the world turning softer as the next flicker comes. Then the next fade, flicker, for tonight this is enough. A lamp, a gentle flame, and every breath between them. There's nothing else to do. The oil lamp on the table burns small and low. The wick has curled, lazy in the flame, barely enough to light the inside of this plain room. Beyond the walls, everything settles, sheep, dust, voices that once pressed hard against the door. Now there's only quiet. The Samaritan sits at the edge of the rough mattress, cloak gathered against his knees, fingers working gently at a stubborn knot in the hem. He feels it loosen bit by bit. There is time. There is only the soft ache of muscles and the hush after carrying too much. He reaches for water beside the bed, lifting it with slow hands. The jug is cool against his palm. The first sip is small. It moves down his throat like a blessing, cooling what the day had left warm and tired. Letting the jug rest by the mattress, he places one hand on the cover, palm spreading on the woven threads, and breathes out the day. A deep, steady breath, the kind that lets the shoulders drop just a little. Let it stretch, hold, soften. Light around the eyes. There is no rush here, no one to hurry for. Each movement slows, boots are set beside the bed, toes facing out, sandals stacked neat together. The bandages from earlier are still folded where he left them. He smooths them with the back of his hand, feeling how soft they have become since the roadside. No blood now, only linen warmed by candlelight. The wounded traveler sleeps in the next room. He listens to that steady, distant breathing like water through stone. Even the sound is gentle, unhurried. No fear, no need to watch the door tonight. The Samaritan lies back on the bed, legs stretching long, toes uncurling beneath the cover. The linen cools his feet. The mattress lifts him, soft, uneven, familiar. He runs his palm along the sheet, feeling the bumps and dips, the way it hugs to old shapes. Above him, the ceiling is just wood and shadow. He watches nothing for a while, just lets his eyes open, half closed, floating somewhere between wake and sleep. The lamp is dim now. He turns his face to one side, cheek against the pillow, heavy, grateful. He closes his eyes, but not tight, just enough to let the dark settle, gentle as dust over the day's noise. The last thing he hears is his own breath, slow and quiet, matching the darkness around him. There's no need to make sense of all he's done. The road, the bandages, the inn, the silver coins, none of it asks to be held awake. There will be time to remember if it matters. Now his arms loosen, falling across his middle, belly rising and falling, slow as any river in night. From the hallway, a footstep, then nothing. The sound of someone pausing, maybe to listen, then moving away, careful not to disturb. The Samaritan's lips part, more to breathe than to speak, and he feels a little prayer drift up inside. Simple, nameless, just the warmth of being alive and let be. There is nothing clever in his mind. Night simply presses its palm down and everything softens beneath it. He thinks of the room, how the darkness comes up and fills the corners, even under the bed, under the table, inside his own folded hands. He is heavy and the world is held, too. The inn, the traveler, the road outside, the animals sleeping, the keeper's daughter sliding the bolt on the door. Nothing wants anything from him now. He yields without negotiation. The room takes the last threads of the day and lays them down, quiet as dusk. Blanket pulled up, he lets one knee bend to the side, foot rolling until the toes just brush against the hem of the sheet. The old aches do not argue. He feels each bone, each gentle twinge of shoulder and wrist softened by rest. There is no plan for tomorrow, no story left to tell inside his mind. The body has nothing to prove. The spirit asks for nothing more than this stillness. He asked for nothing and still felt full. The muscles remember the road, yes, but the bed remembers him, too. All those other nights he stopped just long enough to heal. Sleep comes not as a miracle but as a practice, slow, steady, honest. He lays himself down as quiet offering, letting the weight slide away. The body yields. The spirit loosens its grip. The night is not an enemy. It is a wide-throated friend folding him in without a word. In the dimness, everything finds its shape. Even the air rests easy across his eyelids. No more needs to be done. There is only night moving gentle as God's hand. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. Amen, amen, amen. The air is softer after sundown. It's the quiet that comes after helping, after a day pulled gently from one task to the next. The Samaritan stands, not with any urgency, but because the sky has changed color. He breathes and listens to the stillness. The lamp in the corner is dim, flickering like a thought about to drift away. The wounded traveler is already resting. Nothing left to do but listen with the night, and let the ache slip out with every slow exhale. A window is open. Someone is folding a blanket nearby. No one says anything about the road or the danger or what happened before. All that noise is far away, like a memory softened by kindness. Quiet hands find the edge of a cloak. The Samaritan whispers a prayer as simple as washing a cup before bed. Lord, hold this stranger tonight. Let his dreams be gentle. Let your peace sit quiet over his wounds. Waiting, bless this rest. Steady and whole, let the silence stretch, soft and unbroken. Stay near, even in the middle of the dark, and for me too. Lord, for all who wander, may my heart remember. Kindness lingers longer than noise. Now the Samaritan lets the silence fill the room again. He is not asking for anything else, just watching the oil flame grow smaller, slow breathing. He sits close, not to guard, but to share the night. Sometimes he prays again, but without words. Just a hope folded gently left in the hush. He sets the lamp aside. The night air is cool. A final blessing drifts out, meant for anyone still awake. You are watched over. You are not alone tonight. Peace waits for you. Even when you're weary, kindness finds you. Even if you can't call for it, stillness gathers around your breath. The Lord remembers you. Nothing is wasted in his care. All that is lost will rest and be made whole. Sleep comes slowly. As the prayers keep watch, Amen, Amen.